You did everything right. You told yourself, this month, I'm going to be responsible. So you opened a savings account. You started moving money in, $50 here, $150 there, maybe even $200 on a good month. And honestly, it felt great. You felt like an adult, like you finally had your life together. But then, one quiet Sunday morning, you're sipping coffee, you open your banking app, and you do the math. You've got $10,000 sitting there, and after a full year of discipline, of saying no to dinners out and random Amazon purchases, your bank paid you $48. Meanwhile, your coworker is casually mentioning index funds at lunch. Your Instagram feed is full of people talking about compound growth and financial freedom. And suddenly, a very uncomfortable question creeps into your mind. Wait, am I playing the wrong game entirely? Here's the honest answer. Yes and no. Saving is not wrong. But saving alone is like filling up your car with gas and then never driving anywhere. The fuel is ready, but nothing moves. So today, I'm going to walk you through the exact transition from being a saver to becoming an investor. Step by step, without the jargon, without the overwhelm, and without putting a single dollar of your financial security at risk. Let me start with something that might make you slightly uncomfortable. Saving money will almost never make you wealthy on its own. Now, before you close the video, hear me out. Because I'm not saying saving is bad. Saving is absolutely essential. But saving and investing are two completely different tools, and most people use only one of them their entire lives. Think of it this way. Saving is a shield. Investing is a sword. A shield protects what you have. A sword builds something new. You need both. But if you only ever carry the shield, you never advance. Let's look at the actual numbers, because numbers tell the truth better than I can. You've got $10,000. You put it in a savings account, earning about 1% a year. After 12 months, you have $10,100. Fine, safe, comfortable. Now imagine that same $10,000 invested in a broad stock market index fund. Historically, the U.S. stock market has delivered roughly 10% average annual returns over long periods. After 1 year, $11,000. That's a $900 difference. Okay, that's not life-changing. You're right. 1 year isn't the point. Now let's zoom out. Over 20 years, savings at 1%, roughly $12,200. Investing at 10%, roughly $67,000. Same starting money, same person. Completely different outcome, just because of where that money was sitting. That gap, that's not luck. That's not some secret Wall Street trick. That's just compounding, the single most powerful force in personal finance. So, if investing is so clearly more powerful, why don't more people do it? It comes down to one word: comfort. Investments are different. They move, sometimes beautifully upward, sometimes stomach-droppingly downward. And your brain, specifically the part designed to protect you from danger, treats that fluctuation the same way it treats a threat. It screams, "Get out! Move the money back!" This is why intelligent, educated people make terrible financial decisions. It's not an IQ problem, it's a psychology problem. The good news? Once you understand why the transition feels scary, you can design a system that removes the fear from the equation entirely. The step-by-step path. Let me walk you through the 5-step roadmap. Simple, practical, no finance degree required. Step 1. Build your financial cushion. First, before a single dollar goes into any investment account, you need 3 to 6 months of your monthly living expenses sitting in cash, not invested, not touched, just there. Why? Because the number one reason people panic sell their investments and lock in losses is that life happened and they needed the money. A car broke down, a medical bill arrived, they lost their job. Your emergency fund is what gives your investments permission to ride out the tough times. It keeps your hands off the wheel when your instinct says, sell everything. Step 2. Create 2 mental buckets. This sounds simple, but it genuinely changes how you feel about your money. Bucket 1. Safety money. This doesn't move. It doesn't grow dramatically. It just protects you. Bucket 2. Growth money. This is allowed to fluctuate because its entire job is to grow over a 5, 10, 20-year horizon. The moment you stop thinking of all your money as one thing, the anxiety of watching markets move drops dramatically. Step 3. Start smaller than you think you should. I hear this all the time. I'll start investing when I have enough to make it worth it. That day rarely comes, and it doesn't need to. Most platforms today let you start with $50. The amount matters far less than the habit. You're not trying to get rich in month 1. You're training your brain to think like an investor, to see a market dip and stay calm rather than spiral, real quick. If you're getting value from this, hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who are sitting on savings and wondering why nothing is changing. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below. Tell me, are you currently in the saving stage, or have you already started investing? I read every single comment. Now, let's keep going. Step 4. Keep it boring. Seriously, here's where beginners go wrong. They start watching YouTube, they get excited, and suddenly they're day trading penny stocks or dumping money into some crypto token they heard about in a Discord group. The boring strategy almost always wins: index funds. A single index fund can give you exposure to hundreds of companies at once. When one company struggles, another carries the weight. You're not betting on one horse, you're betting on the entire race. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors in human history, has said publicly, repeatedly, that for most people, a low-cost index fund is the smartest investment they'll ever make. That's not marketing. That's someone who has spent 70 years studying this, telling you the honest truth. Step 5. Stay consistent, especially when it feels wrong. Say you invest $300 every single month. Markets average 8% annually. After 25 years, you have roughly $285,000. But here's the part that blows people's minds. You only personally contributed $90,000 of that. The other $195,000 was generated by the growth on your growth on your growth. That's compounding. And it only works if you stay in the game long enough for it to do its thing. When markets drop, and they will, your $300 that month buys more shares at lower prices. You're not losing, you're shopping during a sale. The people who understand this actually look forward to downturns. It's called dollar cost averaging, and it's one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available to everyday investors. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. Saving money is the foundation. It gives you stability. It gives you options. It gives you the ability to sleep at night without financial anxiety. Never stop saving. But investing? That's what turns a foundation into a building. That's what turns discipline into freedom. That's the difference between having enough and having choices. The path isn't complicated. Build your cushion. Create your 2 buckets. Start small and stay consistent. Keep it simple. And above all, give time the chance to do what only time can do. The best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. If this video helped you think differently about your money, hit that like button. It takes 1 second, and it means everything for this channel. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and drop a comment below and tell me, saving stage or investing stage? Where are you right now? I'll see you in the next video. You've probably heard the word fund thrown around constantly. Index funds, mutual funds, hedge funds, ETFs. Everyone's talking about them. But here's the honest truth. Most people have no idea what the actual difference is between them. And they're investing in something they don't fully understand. Here's why that matters. Choose the wrong type of fund, and you could be paying 10 times more in fees than you need to. Or worse, putting your money in something designed for millionaires, when a simpler option would make you far more money long term. Today, I'm breaking down all 4 types of funds, what they are, how they work, what they cost, and most importantly, which one is actually right for you. 8 minutes. Let's go. What is a fund? Before we compare anything, let's understand what a fund actually is. Imagine 10 people each have $1,000 to invest. One person could try to manage it alone, but that's stressful and limits what you can buy. Instead, they pool all 10,000 together. Now they can buy a diversified mix of stocks, bonds, and assets that none of them could access individually. Each person owns a proportional share of everything in the pool, and a manager, human or algorithmic, handles the decisions. That's a fund, a collective pool of money invested across multiple assets. The key differences between fund types come down to 4 things: who manages it, how it's traded, what strategy it uses, and how much it costs you. Let's go through each one. Type 1. Index funds. Index funds are the simplest and most recommended option for most investors, and here's why. An index fund doesn't try to beat the market, it simply copies the market. It tracks a specific index, which is a preset list of companies grouped together to represent a section of the economy. The most famous example is the S&P 500, a list of the 500 largest companies in the United States. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, all in one fund. When you invest in an S&P 500 index fund, you own a tiny slice of all 500 companies simultaneously. If the US economy grows, your investment grows with it. There are indexes for everything. The Nasdaq tracks technology-focused companies. The Dow Jones tracks 30 of the largest established businesses. There are international indexes, emerging market indexes, healthcare indexes, and more. Because no human is actively picking stocks, the fees are incredibly low. Most index funds charge between 0.02 and 0.20% annually. On $10,000 invested, that's $2 to $20 per year. That's it. One important thing to know, index funds are only priced once per day after the market closes. This is called the net asset value. You place an order anytime, but it executes at the end of day price. For long-term investors, this doesn't matter at all. Index funds are ideal for patient, long-term investors who want reliable, low-cost exposure to broad market growth. Warren Buffett himself has said most people would be better off just buying an index fund and leaving it alone. Type 2. Mutual funds. Mutual funds look similar to index funds from the outside. Both pool investor money and spread it across multiple assets. Both are priced once per day at market close. But the key difference is everything happening on the inside. Mutual funds are actively managed. There's a professional fund manager, sometimes an entire team, whose job is to research companies, analyze markets, and make decisions about what to buy and sell. Their goal is to beat the market benchmark, to outperform the index rather than just match it. This sounds appealing. Who wouldn't want a professional trying to maximize their returns? But here's the uncomfortable reality. Study after study shows that the majority of actively managed mutual funds fail to outperform their benchmark index consistently over a 10 to 15-year period. Most don't beat it, and the ones that do rarely repeat the performance year after year. And you pay significantly more for this active management. Mutual fund expense ratios typically range from 0.5 to 1.5% annually. On $10,000, that's $50 to $150 per year, compared to the index fund's $2 to $20. Over 30 years, that fee difference compounded can mean tens of thousands of dollars out of your pocket. That said, mutual funds aren't useless. They can give you targeted exposure to specific sectors, countries, or strategies that may not be easily available through index funds. Some investors want a human hand on the wheel, especially in volatile markets. Just go in with clear eyes about the cost. Before we get into hedge funds and ETFs, quick favor. If this is clearing up the confusion around funds, smash that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns like this. And drop a comment with the word funds below. I'm putting together a one-pager comparing all 4 fund types with real numbers, and I'll send it to everyone who comments. All right, let's keep going. Type 3. Hedge funds. Now we enter completely different territory. Hedge funds are not for regular investors, and by the end of this section, you'll understand exactly why. The name hedge comes from the idea of hedging, reducing risk by taking offsetting positions. But in practice, modern hedge funds are less about safety and more about chasing aggressive returns using complex strategies most people have never heard of. Here's what makes hedge funds different. They use strategies unavailable to regular investors. Short selling, which is betting that a stock will fall in price. Leverage, which means borrowing money to amplify their bets. Derivatives, complex financial instruments that can multiply gains or losses dramatically. And they invest across any asset class imaginable: stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities, real estate, even art. Because these strategies carry enormous risk, hedge funds are only open to accredited investors. In the US, that means individuals with a net worth over $1 million or an annual income above $200,000. These are not everyday investment products. The fees reflect this exclusivity. Hedge funds typically charge what's called a 2 and 20 structure. 2% of your total assets annually, plus 20% of any profits they generate. On a $1 million investment earning 10%, that's $20,000 in management fees, plus $20,000 in performance fees. $40,000 in a single year. For this to be worth it, the hedge fund needs to dramatically outperform what you'd earn elsewhere. Some do. George Soros famously made $1 billion in a single day shorting the British pound in 1992. But most hedge funds don't deliver those results, and many underperform simple index funds after fees. Hedge funds are for ultra-high net worth individuals who can absorb losses, want sophisticated strategies, and have the financial knowledge to evaluate what they're actually buying into. Type 4, ETFs, or exchange-traded funds, are where it gets interesting because they're essentially a hybrid of everything we've discussed. Like index funds, most ETFs track a market index passively, meaning low fees and broad diversification. But like stocks, ETFs trade throughout the day on the stock exchange. You can buy at 9:30 in the morning and sell at 3:59 in the afternoon at whatever the current market price is. This real-time trading gives you flexibility that index mutual funds don't offer. If a major event happens midday and you want to act on it, you can. Index mutual funds force you to wait until the end of the day. Fees for most ETFs range from 0.03 to 0.75% depending on the type. Basic broad market ETFs are incredibly cheap, sometimes even cheaper than their mutual fund equivalents. There are now two types of ETFs: passive index ETFs that simply track a benchmark, and actively managed ETFs, where a fund manager is making stock selections, similar to a mutual fund but wrapped in the ETF trading structure. Actively managed ETFs tend to cost more, but still less than traditional mutual funds in most cases. Another unique advantage of ETFs is tax efficiency. When mutual fund investors redeem shares, the fund may need to sell underlying securities and distribute capital gains to all shareholders, including you, even if you didn't sell. ETFs avoid this through a mechanism that allows shares to be exchanged without triggering taxable events. In a regular taxable account, this can save you meaningful money over time. Popular ETF providers include Vanguard with VTI and VOO, iShares with IVV, and State Street with SPY, one of the most traded ETFs in the world. Let's put all four side by side so you can see the full picture. Index funds. Passively managed, priced once daily, extremely low fees between 0.02 and 0.20%. Designed for long-term investors who want reliable market returns with minimal effort and cost. Mutual funds. Actively managed, priced once daily. Higher fees between 0.5 and 1.5%. Best for investors who want professional stock selection in specific sectors and are willing to pay for the possibility of outperformance. Hedge funds. Aggressively managed with complex strategies. Available only to accredited investors. Fees of 2 and 20 structure. Designed for ultra-wealthy investors seeking maximum returns with full understanding of elevated risk. ETFs. Mostly passively managed, but actively managed options exist. Trades throughout the day like a stock. Low fees, between 0.03 and 0.75%, offers flexibility and tax efficiency alongside broad diversification. Which one is right for you? Here's the simple decision framework. If you're just starting out or building long-term wealth with minimal effort, index funds or ETFs are your best options. Low cost, simple, historically reliable. You'll outperform most active managers simply by staying invested and keeping fees low. If you believe in a specific investment strategy or want targeted sector exposure and you've done your homework on the fund manager's track record, mutual funds can play a role. Just keep them to a smaller portion of your portfolio and watch those fees carefully. If you're a high net worth investor, a sophisticated institutional client, or managing a large portfolio that requires complex risk management strategies, hedge funds deserve exploration. Otherwise, they're not for you. The core principle? Costs compound just like returns do. Every percentage point you pay in fees is a percentage point you don't keep. Over 30 years, the difference between a 0.03% ETF and a 1% mutual fund on a $50,000 investment can exceed $100,000. Bottom line is index funds give you the market passively and cheaply. Mutual funds give you active management at a higher cost with mixed results. Hedge funds offer aggressive strategies reserved for the wealthy. ETFs give you the best of index investing with stock-like flexibility and tax efficiency. If this finally made funds make sense, subscribe for more investing breakdowns, hit that like button, and share this with anyone still confused about where to put their money. And don't forget to comment the word funds below so I can send you the one-pager comparison. See you in the next one.
You are obsessed with someone who may not even return your feelings. You feel like this person must be your destiny, and yet you don't know why it hurts so much. When you can't sleep because you're constantly thinking of someone, when every song reminds you of this person, when you believe the universe has deliberately brought you together, then stop. What you will discover in the next 3 minutes could shatter all your romantic fantasies or confirm that this connection is truly real. Carl Jung, one of the most controversial psychologists in history, dedicated his life to deciphering this mystery. And what he found is so disturbing that most therapists would never tell you, because Jung does not give you false hopes. He shows you the most ruthless truth about love, even if it hurts. Before we continue, do something decisive that will multiply the energy of what you are about to learn. Subscribe to this channel now, because here we speak openly about truths no one else dares to say. Give this video a like, so that more people can discover this life-changing information. And most importantly, write in the comments the name of the person you can't stop thinking about. Or, if you prefer to keep it private, simply write the word destiny. Every action you take now creates an energetic resonance that will amplify everything you are about to understand. Do it now. Don't wait until the end, because what's coming is so powerful that you must fully immerse yourself in the process. Today, you will discover, in just a few minutes, whether this person who consumes you from the inside is truly your destiny or the manifestation of your deepest wound disguised as love. And I warn you, this information could completely destroy the story you have told yourself about this relationship. Are you ready to face the truth? Because what Jung discovered is the following. 90% of people who believe they are experiencing fateful love are in fact repeating traumatic patterns from their childhood. They confuse emotional dependency with a soul connection. They call destiny what in truth is a wound, crying out for healing. But here is what no one tells you. There are also those 10% of connections that are real, that transcend time and space, that hold divine meaning in your life. And in the next few minutes, I will show you exactly how to recognize the difference. If you have listened this far, it is no coincidence. Something inside you knows that this information is crucial for your life. You are desperately searching for answers no one has given you. You are tired of feeling crazy because you love someone who may not even play such an important role in your life. Attention! What you are about to learn may shake your ego but free your soul. Jung did not come to confirm your romantic fantasies, he came to awaken your consciousness. And this awakening, as necessary as it is, hurts. Here is the truth that the love industry hides from you. You don't fall in love with people. You fall in love with your projections. The person you think is perfect is in fact reflecting parts of your own psyche that you have not yet integrated. You see in them what you need to see, not what they really are. Frightening, isn't it? Because that means all this love at first sight, this inexplicable connection, this feeling of knowing each other from past lives, could be nothing more than your subconscious projecting its unresolved wounds onto someone. But wait, before you panic, Jung also discovered something revolutionary. When two people have integrated their shadows and healed their wounds, they can meet on a soul level beyond projections. That is true fateful love. Not the romantic illusion movies sell us, but something much deeper, transformative. Do you want the ultimate proof whether this person is truly meant for you? Young names, infallible signs, but they are so merciless that most people do not want to hear them. Listen very carefully now, because here, illusion and truth part ways. If this person makes you anxious, insecure, if you constantly feel you have to prove yourself, then that is not fateful love. It is your trauma disguised as attraction. If this person triggers your old wounds of abandonment, makes you believe you are not enough, keeps you in constant uncertainty, do they really love me? Then this is not your destiny. It is your unresolved past crying out for healing. If you lie awake at night wondering whether he or she loves you, that is not soul peace, but the fear of your wounded ego. The frightening thing is that most people are addicted to this kind of love because they confuse fear with passion, drama with depth, and intensity with authenticity. As long as you remain in this confusion, you will be trapped in the same cycles that exhaust you instead of expanding you. Now comes the part that can change your life forever. The part Jung reserved for those brave enough to face the truth without looking away. Jung discovered that true faithful love is the exact opposite of what pop culture has taught us. Listen to these signs as if your life depended on it, because, in a way, the quality of your love life truly does depend on it. It gives you a deep sense of peace and recognition, not constant restlessness. It lets you sleep calmly because you feel emotionally safe. It makes you feel loved for who you are without constantly having to fight for attention. It awakens in you the ability to be authentic without fear of rejection or judgment. It invites you to grow without having to change just to please. If the person you are thinking of right now does not meet these criteria, I have bitter news for you. It is not your destiny. It is your emotional dependency disguised as cosmic love. I know it hurts. Your mind is now searching for excuses, for reasons to deny this truth. But your soul, that deep knowing part of you, is nodding right now. You are ready for the most shocking realization. Jung found that those who are most obsessed with finding their soulmate are the least prepared to receive them. Why? Because they seek someone to complete them, while true faithful love only appears when you are already whole. Here lies the secret that can shake your world. If you desperately want this person to be the one, if your inner peace depends on whether they stay or go, if you believe you cannot live without them, then they are certainly not meant for you. True love does not come to save you, but to celebrate you. It does not come to fill you, but to expand you. It does not appear to complete you, but to accompany you in your wholeness. Now comes the moment of brutal truth. Are you ready to let go of the person you believe is your destiny, when you realize that in truth they are your unresolved karma? Do you have the courage to admit that what you feel may not be love but traumatic bonding? Because Jung would tell you without hesitation, as long as you cling to relationships that drain you, confuse you, keep you trapped on an emotional roller coaster, you are blocking the arrival of your true love. It is as if you are standing at your front door hugging a photograph while your real partner is ringing outside but cannot enter, because you are holding on to an illusion. Let me ask you something completely honest, something that can reveal the truth in seconds. Does this person whom you believe to be your destiny help you become a better version of yourself? Or do they keep you trapped in patterns you already know well? Does their presence lead you toward growth, toward new sides of your personality? Or does it only confirm what you already know about yourself? Because true love, from a Jungian perspective, is not repetition but evolution. It does not come to confirm your wounds, but to transform them. It does not come to keep you comfortable, but to expand the boundaries of what you believe is possible. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." If the person you cannot forget makes you nervous, inadequate, or anxious, do not ignore these signs. Your soul is speaking to you. It shows you exactly which parts of you need attention, which wounds are still open, which patterns remain unresolved. Now, I want you to do a small exercise, one that can bring you more clarity in 30 seconds than months of analysis. Close your eyes and think of this person, not about what you feel for them, but about what you feel about yourself when you are with them. Do you feel freer or more trapped, more authentic or more false, calmer or more tense, more connected to yourself or more lost? These sensations, these physical reactions, are your inner compass, showing you the truth that your mind does not want to accept. Jung taught that the process of individuation, the path of truly becoming yourself, is the most important task of your life. Relationships, especially intense ones, are catalysts of this inner process. They are not the goal themselves, but vehicles that lead you to your true goal, the encounter with yourself. How often have you confused familiarity with destiny? How often have you felt magnetically drawn to someone only to later realize that this person reminded you of old, perhaps even painful but familiar patterns? The human brain seeks the familiar even when the familiar hurts us. That is why we are often drawn to people who treat us the way we were treated in childhood. Not because it is our destiny, but because it is our unresolved pattern. True, destined love does not feel familiar in the sense of the old, but familiar in the sense of the real. It is as if after a long journey, you are finally coming home. Not because you have always been there, but because you are finally in the place you were always meant to be. Jung spoke of synchronicity, those precise coincidences that seem to have a deeper meaning. If a certain person entered your life at the exact moment when you were going through a phase of inner change, do not ignore that. The soul speaks through synchronicities, but also through silence, through calm, through that quiet feeling of "this is right," which requires no justification. But synchronicity is not a guarantee of duration. Sometimes people come synchronistically into our lives to bring us a message, to open a door, to show us something about ourselves, and then they leave again. That too is completely right. Not every deep connection is meant to last forever. Some are meant to change you forever. One of the clearest signs that someone is truly meant for you, Jung described like this: you can be completely yourself with this person without fear of judgment. You can show your shadows, your contradictions, your fears, and instead of withdrawing, this person stays and helps you integrate those parts. True love does not flee from your vulnerability. It embraces it. It does not shy away when you cry. It holds you while you do. It does not condemn you for your imperfections, but recognizes in them your complex, beautiful humanity. It does not want to change you. It loves you precisely because you are who you are, shadows included. Have you noticed that when you desperately seek love and believe you need it to be complete, you keep attracting relationships that mirror your very lack? It is as if the universe keeps reflecting back to you until you realize that what you are seeking outside can only be found within yourself. But when you begin to heal inside, to get to know yourself, to truly love yourself, your vibration changes. You stop attracting from neediness and begin attracting from resonance. Then the people who are truly meant for you appear. Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." If you have so far sought your destiny in the eyes of another, perhaps it is time to find it in your own. Because the person who is truly meant for you is not the one who completes you, but the one who recognizes that you are already complete and chooses to walk beside you. That is the profound difference between a karmic and a destined connection. The karmic one comes to show you patterns you must break, wounds you must heal, lessons you must learn. It can be intense, dramatic, even addictive, but its purpose is temporary. When you understand the lesson, the intensity fades. The destined connection, however, is different. It comes without drama. It brings a feeling of deep recognition. That quiet, finally, you are here. It does not activate your wounds to torment you, but to heal them. It does not destabilize you, but helps you find your inner center. It does not make you dependent. It makes you free. The greatest obstacle to recognizing such a connection is fear. Fear of being vulnerable, of being fully seen, fear that someone will leave if you show your truth. But Jung reminds us, vulnerability is not weakness. It is the source of real connection. If you are in a relationship where you must hide parts of yourself to be loved, then that is not a destined connection, but a conditional one. True love is unconditional, not in the sense that it tolerates destructive behavior, but in the sense that it sees your essence beyond your flaws. Jung also spoke of the importance of opposites. Sometimes the person who is truly meant for you is not the one most similar to you, but the one who best complements your energy. Not the one who thinks like you, but the one who opens new perspectives for you. But be careful. Not every difference means complementarity. A destined connection can have challenges, difficult moments. It can require work and dedication, but it never feels like coercion. It feels like a natural flow, like organic
Being silent when every part of you is screaming to explain yourself is not self-control. It is not patience. It is not the quiet dignity people romanticize on the internet. It is one of the most violent things you can do to your own ego, and that violence is exactly why it works. When you choose not to explain yourself to someone who has misjudged you, misread you, or built an entire false story about who you are not taking the high road. You are taking a blowtorch to the part of your psyche that has spent your entire life begging the world to see you correctly. And what burns away in that fire is the very thing that has been keeping you psychologically imprisoned. Carl Jung had a name for what happens inside you during that burning. He called it the tension of opposites. And he believed, after decades of studying the deepest layers of the human mind, that the ability to hold that tension, to sit inside the unbearable pressure of being misunderstood without reaching for the release valve of explanation, is the single most transformative act a human psyche can perform. Not therapy, not meditation, not insight. The raw, agonizing, silent act of containing energy that wants to explode outward and forcing it to travel inward instead. That act does not just change how you feel. It rewires your shadow. It restructures the unconscious architecture of who you are. And today I am going to show you exactly how. Before we continue, welcome to Carl Jung Decoded. This is a side of psychology that most people never explore, but these ideas deserve to be understood. I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from today? Let me know in the comments, and it helps us build a community of people who believe these ideas can change lives. You need to understand why the urge to explain is not what you think it is. You believe the urge to explain yourself is about truth. You believe it is about fairness, about accuracy, about making sure the record reflects what actually happened. You believe you are driven by integrity when you compose that long message at midnight, laying out your perspective point by point, correcting every distortion, addressing every false assumption. But integrity is not what is driving you. What is driving you is something far older, far more primitive, and far more desperate than a commitment to truth. What is driving you is the absolute terror of being incorrectly perceived, not intellectually. You can handle being wrong about facts. The terror is existential. When someone forms a false image of you and that image is allowed to stand uncorrected, something in your nervous system reads that as annihilation. Not physical annihilation, identity annihilation. The version of you that exists in their mind is wrong. And if it is wrong and you do not fix it, then a version of you that is not you is walking around in someone else's consciousness. And your psyche treats that as an emergency. This response is ancient. It is wired into the architecture of social mammals whose survival depended on group cohesion. For hundreds of thousands of years, the human animal that was misperceived by its group was the human animal most likely to be excluded, and exclusion meant death. Your nervous system has not updated its software. It still processes social misperception as a survival threat. When someone misreads your character, your body produces the same neurochemical cascade that it would produce if a predator entered the room. Cortisol floods your system. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of you capable of measured, wise, long-term thinking, goes partially offline. Your amygdala, the alarm center, takes over. And the amygdala has one instruction: neutralize the threat. In social terms, neutralizing the threat means correcting the misperception, explaining, defending, making them see. This is why the urge feels so physical. Why your chest tightens and your jaw locks and your fingers itch to type the message that will set everything straight. Your body is not asking you to communicate. Your body is asking you to survive. And the survival strategy it has selected is explanation. Now here is the part that changes everything. Every time you obey that urge, every time you explain yourself to someone who has misperceived you, you experience immediate neurological relief. The cortisol drops, the chest opens, the thoughts slow. You feel better. And that feeling of feeling better convinces you that you did the right thing, that the explanation was necessary, that truth has been served. But what actually happened is something very different. You discharged psychic energy outward. The tension that was building inside you, the unbearable pressure of being misunderstood, was released through language. It escaped through the valve of your words, and once it escaped, it was gone, used up. Spent on restoring an external image that will need to be restored again the next time someone misjudges you, and the time after that. and the time after that. You have been running this loop your entire life, building tension, discharging through explanation, experiencing relief, believing the relief means it worked, missing entirely that the underlying structure never changed. You are still the same person who needs to be correctly perceived to feel stable. The explanation did not change you. It just reset the clock on the next crisis. Jung saw this pattern with devastating clarity. He understood that most human beings spend their entire psychological lives in a cycle of tension and discharge that produces temporary relief and zero transformation. He called it the path of least resistance, and he was not complimentary about it. The path of least resistance in Jungian terms is the path that maintains the ego's current structure at the cost of the ego's potential growth. Every time you explain yourself, you are choosing the ego's comfort over the ego's evolution. You are choosing to remain the person who needs external confirmation over becoming the person who does not. And as long as you keep choosing that, the psyche remains frozen in its current configuration. The shadow stays exactly where it is. The complexes stay exactly as they are. Nothing moves, nothing deepens, nothing transforms. You just get very, very good at explaining. The alternative is silence. And silence in this context is not what most people think it is. It is not passivity. It is not suppression. It is not biting your tongue while internally composing the argument you wish you could deliver. That is not silence. That is explanation with the volume turned down. The silence I am describing is something far more radical. It is the conscious, deliberate choice to allow a misperception to exist without correction. To let someone carry an image of you that is incomplete or distorted or outright wrong. To feel the full force of the urge to fix it and to not fix it. Not because you can't. Not because you are afraid. But because you have decided that the energy burning inside you is worth more than the relief of spending it on someone who may never understand you regardless. This decision is where Jung's concept of the tension of opposites becomes not just a theory but a lived experience. The tension of opposites is Jung's term for the state that arises when the psyche holds two contradictory truths simultaneously without collapsing into either one. In this case, the two truths are, I have been misperceived and I will not correct the misperception. These are in direct conflict. The first generates enormous energy. The second refuses to let that energy escape. When both are held at the same time, when neither is abandoned, the energy has nowhere to go. It cannot move outward because you have sealed the exit. It cannot simply vanish because psychic energy is conserved. It does not disappear, it relocates. So it moves inward. It descends. It sinks into the unconscious like water finding the lowest point in the terrain. And when energy enters the unconscious with this kind of force and intensity, it does not sit idle. It activates something. Jung called what it activates the transcendent function. This is one of the most important and least understood concepts in all of analytics. If you are recognizing yourself or someone you know in these descriptions, pay close attention to what comes next, because the signs that follow are the ones that most clearly separate someone who has been through a genuine dark night from someone who has merely read about one. The sixth sign is perhaps the most paradoxical. The transformed person has become simultaneously softer and more immovable. This combination should not be possible. Softness implies flexibility, openness, a willingness to be moved. Immovability implies rigidity, stubbornness, a refusal to yield. But in the transformed person, these two qualities coexist without contradiction. They can be moved to tears by a piece of music. They can be touched by a stranger's kindness. They can feel the full weight of someone's pain without defending against it. And in the very same breath, they can hold a boundary that nothing on earth will move. They can say no with a gentleness that carries the force of absolute finality. They can love someone deeply and refuse to participate in that person's destructive patterns. This paradox is the behavioral signature of what Jung called the union of opposites, the hallmark of a psyche that has been through the alchemical fire and emerged integrated rather than fragmented. Before the dark night, softness and strength existed as separate and competing forces. Being soft meant being vulnerable. Being strong meant being armored. The person toggled between the two, sometimes sacrificing strength for connection, sometimes sacrificing connection for protection. The dark dissolved the wall between them. What emerged is a single quality that contains both, a tenderness that cannot be exploited because it is backed by an unshakable center, a firmness that cannot become cruelty because it is infused with genuine compassion. People who encounter this combination for the first time do not know what to make of it. It does not fit any category they have, and that is precisely the point. The seventh marker is visible in the transformed person's relationship with their own past. Before the dark night, the past was a story, a narrative constructed to explain who they are, to justify their choices, to assign blame and credit in a way that supported the ego's preferred self-image. After the dark night, the past is no longer a story. It is compost. The transformed person does not tell their trauma narrative with the same emotional charge they once carried, not because they have suppressed it, and not because they have bypassed it, because they have metabolized it. The events are the same. The memories are intact. But the relationship to those memories has undergone a fundamental chemical change. What was once a wound that defined them has become experience that informed them. What was once a source of identity, I am the person this happened to, has become a piece of integrated history that no longer needs to be performed or protected. You can hear this in how they speak about difficult experiences. There is no dramatic arc. There is no victim narrative. There is no hero narrative either. There is just factual recounting with an emotional tone that is remarkably level, not flat, not dissociated, level, grounded, as if they are describing weather that has already passed. This is not emotional numbness. This is the behavioral evidence of a psyche that has fully digested its own suffering rather than carrying it as an unprocessed lump in the gut. Jung described this as the withdrawal of projections from the past, the moment when a person stops using their history as a lens through which they interpret the present and starts seeing the present on its own terms. The eighth sign reveals itself in who the transformed person allows into their life. Their social circle has contracted dramatically, not from bitterness, not from misanthropy, from precision. During the dark night, relationships that were built on persona fell away. Friendships that were maintained through mutual performance could not survive the death of the performer. What remained was small, sometimes startlingly small. But what remained was real. The transformed person has developed an almost biological sensitivity to inauthenticity. They can detect performed emotion the way a sommelier detects a flawed wine, instantly and without effort, and their tolerance for it has dropped to near zero, not because they judge inauthentic people. They understand inauthenticity intimately, because they lived inside it for years before the dark night stripped it away. They simply cannot metabolize it anymore. It creates a discomfort in their system that they have learned to trust as a signal rather than override as a social obligation. So their world becomes smaller, their dinner table has fewer chairs, their phone rings less frequently, and the people who remain in their inner circle share one quality that overrides all others. They're real, not perfect, not enlightened, not necessarily people who have been through their own dark night, just real, capable of showing up without a mask, capable of being seen in their complexity without needing to manage the perception. The transformed person would rather sit in silence with one honest human being than perform connection with 100 polished ones. The ninth and final behavioral sign is the one that most clearly marks the person who has been through a complete dark night, and it is the one that is most frequently misinterpreted by the outside world. The transformed person has stopped trying to change anyone. Before the dark night, this person likely spent considerable energy trying to help others see what they could see, trying to wake people up, trying to share the insights they had gained, trying to drag the people they loved toward the kind of awareness that they believed would save them. After the dark night, this impulse is gone, not weakened, dissolved. This gone, not weakened, dissolved. The transformed person has learned, through the most personal and painful possible education, that awakening cannot be given. It can only be undergone. They learned this because no one could have given it to them. No book, no teacher, no well-meaning friend could have spared them the descent. The dark night was a solitary journey. The fire burned them personally and specifically, and the transformation that occurred inside that fire was between them and their own unconscious. No one else could have done it for them. And so they know, with the certainty of someone who has lived it, that no one can do it for anyone else either. This knowledge produces a behavior that the outside world reads as indifference, but is actually the deepest form of respect. The transformed person meets people exactly where they are. They do not push, they do not preach. They do not preach, they do not offer unsolicited wisdom or project their own timeline of growth onto someone else's journey. If asked, they will share. If invited, they will guide. But they will never again try to force consciousness onto someone who is not ready, because they understand that premature awakening is as destructive as no awakening at all. The seed must crack in its own time. The dark night must come when the psyche is ready to survive it, and the transformed person, who bears the marks of their own cracking, who carries the quiet authority of someone who has survived a fire that most people cannot even imagine, has earned the right to trust the process, not because it was fair, not because it was gentle, but because it was real. And real is the only currency they trade in now. There is a loneliness in being this person, a specific, almost architectural loneliness that does not come from a lack of connection, but from an excess of awareness. The transformed person sees things that others do not see. They hear what lives beneath words. They sense the unspoken currents in a room with a precision that can feel like a burden. They watch people perform, and they remember what it felt like to perform, and they cannot go back to perform, and they cannot explain why to anyone who has not been through the fire. This loneliness is not a flaw in the transformation. It is a feature of it. It is the natural consequence of standing in a place that very few people have stood. Jung described it as the price of consciousness. He did not pretend it was free. He did not promise that the transformed life would be more comfortable than the untransformed one. What he promised was that it would be more real, and for the person who has survived the dark night, who has been dismantled down to the bare foundation and rebuilt from the center outward, more real is not a consolation. It is everything, because they know what the alternative feels like. They lived inside the alternative for years, and they would rather be lonely in the truth than surrounded in the performance. That choice, made quietly, without audience, without applause, is the final signature of the dark night, not a behavior anyone else can see. A silent internal declaration that echoes through every interaction, every decision, every moment of chosen solitude. I went into the dark, I survived what I found there, and I will never pretend I did not see what I saw. The world can meet me here, or it can pass me by. Either way, I am not going back. If you just heard your own life described in words that nobody has ever used to describe it before, subscribe to this channel. Not because we ask you to, but Beck, what lives here is the kind of understanding that does not exist in many places, and the people who need it recognize it instantly. You just did.